Welcome back to the Predictable Revenue Podcast. I'm your host, Collin Stewart. Today, I'm joined by Kunick Kapadia of Anova, and we're going to talk product market fit. Before we jump in, this episode's brought to you by Predictable Revenue's founder coaching program. Founders, let's be real. Scaling a company is hard. You're juggling product, revenue, hiring, and a million other decisions. Some of them you haven't done before. But what if you had a bunch of founders that had been there to walk you through your revenue journey together? That's what we're here for. If that sounds interesting, give me a call. Welcome to the Predictable Revenue Podcast, where sales leaders teach you what's working for them so you can build it yourself. Kunick, welcome to the show. I'm really excited to learn about Anova and your other business. We'll kind of get to that in a little bit, but I always love meeting other bootstrap entrepreneurs, getting a chance to hear their story. And so I want to lead it off by tell us a little bit about yourself and where the idea for Anova came from.
So Collin, thanks a lot for having me on the podcast. Anova stemmed from just our experiences with our other service-based company, which I know we'll talk about later, called Fusion 180. But basically, within that company, we did a lot of data and analytics work for our clients. Mm-hmm. And in the course of doing that over the, almost a decade, we just saw a lot of the same pain points popping up over and over and over again. The kind of experiences we had there led me to just have this vision in my head about what I think good analytics is, but technology was never caught up to where we could actually execute on that. But then when AI came out, it was like, hey, a whole new world of possibilities have now opened up where we could start developing things that previously were just impossible because of the technology limitations. And that's where Anova was born. So it was really just born based on our own pain and our clients' own pain.
I want to kind of zoom in on that because when I started my first company, I had worked with CRM systems for a long time. I'd spent probably 10 years as a dirty sales guy, and I was the geeky sales kid, always charged with implementing the CRM system. And so I came to that thinking I was a bit of an expert, not being an expert, but I think I had a legitimate, valuable insight into the world of CRM. The problem I ran into was I said, okay, I'm going to build my idea. I went out and talked to a bunch of people and I said, hey, isn't my idea cool? And they were like, yeah, sure. I mean, they said, yeah, it looks good. And I thought they meant like, yes, I would pay for that. Turns out I was wrong. And they were just trying to get me off the call because I wasn't really listening. But I'm curious, because you came from kind of a similar background in, obviously not as a dirty sales guy, but you've got 10 years experience in the data analytics space. How do you balance the knowledge that you do have with going out and validating, making sure that the software company is a worthwhile expenditure to invest your hard and earned cash and dollars into?
Well, we learned that, me and my co-founder, who's also my brother, we learned that by doing the complete opposite of what you should do, which is before Anova, we launched another analytics software that we did not validate at all. We did not do user conversations or discovery. We were like, oh, this is something we think people need. It's going to be super cool. Everyone's going to love it. We fell into confirmation bias where we showed it to the people in our network that basically did something similar to what your experiences were, where they were like, this is great. This is cool. This seems so interesting. And yet no one was willing to shell out $1 for it. So we spent 2.5 years on that thinking it's going to be the next big thing. And then we were like, hey, when AI came out, right, I remember it was early January 2022. We were like, all right, this idea is dead. We're not doing it anymore. We're going to launch an AI company, but we're going to be much smarter now with how we validate and not build anything and over-engineer until we can prove people want this. So that's when we went back. We did do very, very simple, down and dirty MVPs. We showed it to people, and I think with software in any product, if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. And that's the best thing I'd say. If people are not if you can't feel the enthusiasm just coming in through the screen on the other end of it, they don't want it, right? It is hard enough to convert someone that loves your product to a customer. Someone that likes your product, it's not going to happen. Right. So totally. When we did this the second time around, we were looking for not like, oh, yeah, this is cool. This is interesting. We were looking for, I need this right away. And once we got a few of those, you don't need everyone to say that's not going to happen. But once we got a few of those, it was like, all right, this is an idea to continue to be worth pursuing. And I think that's the way that for this venture, we did validate better by not over-engineering and by not listening for noise, listening for emphatic yeses and not just, mediocrity.
Hell yeah.
Basically.
Because yeah, I mean, I think that's the trap that we fall into is the confirmation bias. How many of these meetings did you run? What was your kind of ratio of like hell yeah to meh?
I would say we probably did like 10 to 15 calls with people in our network. And frankly, I do not recommend talking to people in your network unless
Mm,
they're brutally honest people. If
mm,
they're the type of people that you have the relationship where they're going to tell you like, yeah, this sucks, fine, it's okay to use them. But if they're going to
mm,
sugarcoat things, don't ask people like that for advice. They will lead you down the wrong path, and they're not doing anything wrong. They're trying to be nice, but you don't need
mm,
nice. You need brutally honest feedback, right? So I still don't think we did that part perfect because I was talking to a lot of people in my network, people that probably weren't giving me that harsh feedback I needed, but I
mm,
did get a few of the emphatic yeses that made me feel like, all right, we're on the right track here. Fast forward a little bit further, but fast forward a little further is when we did more of a full-on release toward the end of 2022, and then we did like cold email marketing, right? To people we
mm.
did not know at all, got a bunch of demos, like a crazy amount of demos. Granted, most of the people were not serious buyers. It was a lot of window shoppers at that point in time. But when we got people that had never heard of us, never talked to us before to be like, I like what you're doing and I will pay for this, that's when we were like, all right, now we have something here.
Mhm,
And we had like 200 conversations with the cold, like when we did cold email marketing, we got like
mhm,
200 something demos in a span of a few months,
hmm.
partly because of just good execution, partly because of luck, because everyone at that point wanted to talk AI, right?
Yeah.
This was early 2024. So yeah, 2024, Q1 2024. But
Yeah.
we did like 200 of those demos. A lot of them were just but I did get like, a lot of our early customers willing to put down money to pay for the solution. And that's when I'm like, all right, now we got something.
Love that. Yeah. I'm a big fan of strength of product market fit. It's not product market fit is not a binary thing. It's like it exists on a spectrum. You can have customers, but not have like very strong product market fit, or you can have a few customers and like the slope is facing, up like this. And my theory is any salesperson knows this. The more people need your product, the easier it is to sell. And that translates into go to market. I think the reason you were able to build a campaign that produced 200 demos was strong product market fit, right? And part of that is the product, part of that is the market. The market really fucking wanted what you had, right? And that's like literally the fit between the product and the market.
Yeah, and I think it's also like, especially with sales, you have to be really, really focused on your ICP, your messaging, all that. Like we had a
Mm,
very specific target, which was marketing agencies and marketing teams, because that's the world that I come from, is a lot of
mm,
marketing data. So because I came from that world, the messaging really hit home with their pain points and their problems. That
mm,
combined with just the tidal wave that was AI, where everyone was just talking to as many AI vendors as possible to not feel like they were being left out, led to that
mm,
surge of increase. I can't reproduce that today. I can't reproduce. It was like this moment in time where I caught a wave and we rode it the right way.
mm.
But those conversations informed a lot. We got our early customers, and those early customers have just been invaluable through the process of where we've netted out now.
Love that. So when did the first customer land? And was it from customer development or was it from this outbound stuff you did?
All of our customers have been through outbound. Ironically enough, none of the early people in my network that we spoke to ended up moving forward as customers, not because they didn't want to. Some just didn't use the technology that we ultimately ended up integrating with. So there was
Mm,
some of that. Others, it just wasn't a fit as we went more and more down POCs. But almost everyone came from cold outbound, which is crazy to me. And we, in the marketing agency space, we got some companies that are well-known entities to
mhm,
have conversations with us, do POCs, and some even became paying customers, and
mhm.
logos I would have never thought at that early of a stage would be interested, but we had the product and positioning that hit home with that. The first customer contract signed in early, like February, I
Mhm.
believe, of 2024.
Okay.
And then we gradually just kept onboarding a few more clients every month for the next like 3-4 months.
And I've heard you say POC and then regular customer. And so I'm assuming you're doing some sort of paid pilot. Is it a free pilot? Like what does that early process look like?
Yeah, last year we did pre POCs,
Mhm.
which I would not recommend if your platform requires onboarding support. Like if you need time to
Mm,
onboard customers, and with AI companies, that is oftentimes the case because you need to train models and
mhm,
basically incorporate the business context and stuff the right way. It is hard to put so much time and effort into POCs that ultimately don't move forward, because then you're not focusing on deals that maybe are more viable. But if for a
mhm,
bunch of middle market companies, if I got 10, 15 people ready to do POCs, but I put a small price tag, even a nominal one in front of them, and 5 drop out, those 5 probably were not going to buy from me to begin with. So I also value, what I value through the process is a little bit of friction, right? If I'm introducing, like everyone tries to create a frictionless experience for customers. I think that works well if
Mhm.
you're product-led growth. Product-led growth, I think it works extremely well, right? This is just my opinion, right? For what we are, which is, you need onboarding support, we need to train AI models the right way. Introducing some friction helped me weed out the people that were serious from the people that were not serious.
Totally. And so, I mean, I think I'm a dirty salesperson at heart. And so I'm a big fan of selling. But I do think when the product isn't good enough to sell, I think there's merit in giving it away for a couple of them for a small, short trial. I think that's totally fair. But I do agree that like you outgrow that phase real quick, probably after like 3 to 5 of like, hey, we've proved the value. We've got these like free POC case studies. Now let's try and mature and start selling the stuff for real dollars.
Yeah, and I'm glad you made that point, because let me backtrack on what I said. Our first 10, 15 customers, if I had to go back and do it all over again, I would still give them all free POCs, 100%, because we needed those 10, 15 customers to get in the door, show us what they liked, what they didn't like. I mean, they've just been invaluable to us through the process. Now that we have those customers, yes, now we can be more selective. But once you get to that point where now there's a trade-off between doing a free POC versus potentially losing time and resources for better deals, I think that's where you have to be more strategic about that decision.
Yeah. Talk to me about the imposter syndrome. How did you get past that from the, realizing not wanting to charge for it to like, tell me about, maybe the first one where you realized you needed to step into that?
Well, I'm still not over the imposter syndrome. Like, I don't think I'll ever be. I don't think I'll ever be over that. And I think a lot of. I don't think it's like one of those things where you have it until like you make it big and then you don't anymore. That's just for me. I feel like I'll always have that element of like self-doubt and just like, I'm not good enough. Am I really going to make it? Am I, it's just always there. It's like this nagging feeling. In fact, I read this Andreessen, Ben Horowitz, I believe, gave us talk 2 days ago or a few days ago where in the last point he said is, don't worry about the self-doubt. It's always going to be there. Like, it's never going to go away. He even said like Mark Zuckerberg had like tremendous amounts of self-doubt. I can't remember if it was Ben Horowitz or Mark Andreessen, but one of the two. They said that, the Mark Zuckerberg had tremendous doubt, right? And every entrepreneur feels that way. You just have to ignore it and just do, right? Like, forget about, ignore, like separate what you're doing from how you're feeling. You're always going to feel like crap as an entrepreneur. You're not going to have a lot of days where you wake up and you're like, I'm the best and everything is going great. I mean, you're going to have one of those days for every 100 terrible days, right? But just divorce how you're feeling from what you're doing. Just do, right? So for us, it was like, I still am surprised sometimes when people want to pay for our software, but I'm just more confidently putting the price tag in front of them, because if I don't, it doesn't look like I value what we built and I value my time. So it's more, in a ways, I'm not saying it's a facade, but in ways it is a facade, right? Because it's just a confidence level that I express now doing it, because I know that that's the only way to build the business. But in my head, whenever someone says, yes, I'm going to pay for it, I'm like, oh man, I can't believe that,
Idiot.
Hopefully not that. But yeah, that's kind of how it feels like,
Yeah. How did you come up with the price? Was it like one of those here, or was there a, did you do a price sensitivity study or talk to customers, or where did that come from?
The way I do pricing in these early stages, the way that we're doing pricing is, are we making good margin based on our theoretical maximum cost for that customer? That's the way that I'm doing it. That may not be the best exercise, right, to do it that way, because you theoretically could be leaving money on the table, right, doing it that way. But the way that I'm looking at it is, are we making, the gold standard for SaaS is, are you making 80% gross margin, right? So are we making 80% or more gross margin on the theoretical maximum amount that a customer could be charging us? If the answer is yes, then yeah, we're okay at that price point. Now, what we'll do is, once we set that baseline price where we know our margins are healthy, then we'll start testing it. For 5 customers, I'll put a price out there. Are they okay with that? Are they paying that? Am I getting pushback? No? Great. Let's up it a little more. Let's up it a little more. And one of the best pieces of advice I got about pricing, because I walked into a meeting one time with somebody and I was like, yeah, no one's pushing back on our price. This is amazing. This guy, you're pricing too low. And I was like, oh. And it seems obvious now, but if no one's pushing back on your price, you're probably pricing too low. So just think of everything you're doing at this stage is just little incremental tests with pricing, with customers, with product. So pricing strategy, especially for monthly or annual recurring SaaS, is a huge thing people ignore. Because if I can get 100 customers to pay an extra $50 a month, I just added an extra $60,000 to my
yearly income stream, right? Or my
Yeah.
yearly run rates.
I do want to ask, we talked about where first customers came from. When I'm curious, like where did the next ones come from? When did it start to feel repeatable?
So I still think the repeatability piece, I think we're still working on. I think we're still in that hand-to-hand combat mode right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're still fighting for, all of the customers that we're getting.
Mm-hmm.
We've tried to kind of scale our outbound efforts, and I just don't think it's working. And again, going back to what I said before about saying one thing and doing another, I think in ways I'm like, I don't want to sell the way everybody else does, and yet I'm also blasting cold emails to people, hoping that we're going to get a response. And, we're not doing that. So, I'm really, my whole thing now is how can we be a lot more surgical and strategic about genuinely cutting through this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's almost like you hear other founders talk about, oh yeah, I got X amount of, leads through cold email and X amount through LinkedIn, and here's this playbook. And you kind of fall, at least me, I fall into that noise sometimes because you're like, okay, clearly they're having success. I'm not doing something right. If I really listen to my gut, you know that everybody has sales fatigue. They're just so tired of being sold to in every channel. And I think we've taken the social aspect out of business in a lot of ways. Even LinkedIn is a social, right? It's a social network. How much social interaction is actually happening on, like genuine social interaction?
LinkedIn is awful. And I've got a nit to pick with LinkedIn. And especially because if you think about social media and how the algorithm works, not from a code perspective, but just from like a user perspective, I log into LinkedIn and I see 3 people that I know, the coolest thing they've done all year. And then I see 150 people like celebrating and commenting on it. That is one outlier success, right? I started a YouTube series 2018 because I was tired of this. I was like, one person's outlier success, the one greatest campaign or sales email they've ever sent will not translate to other companies. And so I think LinkedIn is a terrible place to gather your learning because you're looking at all these outliers and the underlying data doesn't really support the like, hey, you should do this too. Right. When we started this YouTube series, the whole idea, we called it Outbound Labs. And our goal was we were going to take the coolest tactic, the most widely shared thing that we found on LinkedIn relating to sales development. And we were going to test it across 10 different customers. And what we found is that we couldn't replicate any of them. And we did this for a couple of months. And we were like, it was our best performing series from like a views, and customers loved it. And we got bored of running it because we're like, okay, so the answer is we're invalidating everything. We ran a side by side of like the exact same, like a very similar customer, very similar messaging, and like dramatically different results. And you're like, okay, so the answer here is that the strength of product market fit is the multiplier of your go-to-market efforts. And so if you're looking at Rippling, and you're trying to compare the cold email they're sending with the cold email you're sending, you're doing it wrong because they are a very different company. We are not Parker Conrad, as much as I'd like to pretend that we are. Like, it's the context is so different. Their experience and their metrics and their data is irrelevant.
Yeah, and my roots are product. I love building products. Like that's what I love doing. I don't love selling. I've always been like I want to build such a great product that it sells itself. Unfortunately, it's very hard to do that now in the era of AI. You need good marketing and sales and positioning and messaging to stand out. But even YC, they advise people until you have a great product that people love, everything else is noise. Nothing else matters. Right.
100%.
So, like I've only recently started getting active on LinkedIn because I was like, what am I going to be promoting? A product that has too high of a churn? Fantastic. Right. Like it's just a waste of time. So when we did that design partner program and we got the feedback that we got, it was like, okay, now it starts making sense to invest in sales and marketing and all of that. Granted, sometimes when you do it that way, you're late to the party. And then it's like, all right, well, now I need to build emotion, right? Because these things are kind of snowball effects. So that's where we're like, okay, how are we building that momentum and building that motion, both inbound and outbound? But I mean, just in general, like I have to fight my instincts with this stuff. Because if I'm being honest with myself, I don't think anybody wants to be sold to. Like I'm running LinkedIn campaigns right now where it's like the traditional crap everybody else is doing. Do a connection request, you send a message, hey, this is what I do, blah, 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 blah. I'm not getting it. I'm not getting whatever it is that even on cold emails. We're not getting that success. So right now I'm in the process of saying, all right, let's stop trying to make other people's successes fit for what we're doing. And let's be honest about the fact that people don't buy the way we want them to buy. No one's looking at this one message and being like, oh, I'm going to buy your software, right? They need to see trust, validation, all that stuff. So we're trying to find our footing there also in terms of how do we make it scalable and repeatable. I will say that our customers right now, they're just coming through, like I said, referrals from our existing customers or existing network, and then just like us, a lot of hand-to-hand combat, right? A lot of just, reaching out directly, making those connections, building that trust. That's where I've seen the success. And I keep trying to replicate it through a scalable motion, but like I'm skipping steps. Like I know I'm skipping steps, and I don't want to do that anymore. I want to be like, okay, you're right. We're not rippling. Why are we developing an outbound motion like rippling? That's stupid. It's not going to work. And for some reason, again, I know one in my head, but then I convince myself that will be different. And it's like, no,
you're like,
you're
what else do I
not.
do instead? Like
I know.
you don't know. What do I do differently? Right. And that's the hard part.
Yeah, I mean, like, but I think different right now is it's funny enough. I think right now being different is the easiest thing in the world if you're committed to being different. Like I think I want to be different, but I don't think I've committed 100% to being truly different. And I think that's what I'm going to try to change, is to really lean into that, because even as simple, like, I don't know if you saw this, but there's a company called Delve that deals with compliance. And they do so much great guerrilla marketing. They deal with SOC 2, right, for data security. And they sent 50 companies or like 100 companies, something like that, doormats that said, your shoes are cool, are your socks too, right? It was just and it got amazing response all over social media. They got a huge halo effect from that. But they just sent a physical item to 100 people. And I'm like, all right, well, hey, maybe that's the stuff we need to do right now until we get to a point where we need to scale our efforts.
A buddy of mine was working for a SOC 2 company, and the campaign they ran that worked the best, it might have been Delve. I'm blanking on the name right now, but they sent them a mail package with a sock in it. And they said, here's sock 1. Call me when you want sock 2.
That's really good. That's really good.
It's like, it's physical. There's a pun involved. Everybody loves socks. Like, how could this go wrong?
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, like, if someone gets something clever and funny and interesting like that, if you reach out, they will laugh and they'll take that call. They may not be a customer, but listen to you. They'll have that conversation. And that's 70, 80% of the work right now, is just getting that conversation. And then from there, your product, everything else, that has to speak for itself and stand on its own legs at that point, So I think for me, it's like committing to being different now.
Totally. I want to be respectful of your time. Last 2 questions. Talk to me about the moment you realized you might have product market fit.
The design partner program. When we had 3 cohorts of customers, like I said, active churn customers and prospects that never turned into a POC or anything, and they all were like, yeah, this is really something valuable. Like, you're approaching this differently. This is not something we've seen people take this approach when it comes to data analytics, with like having agents autonomously mine your data for you and being able to develop data stories in the speed and scale and depth that we've developed. I think that's when I was like, all right, I think we have something here for sure. And then I had that moment, and then the second aha moment was when I, through my network, I got a lead, did 1 demo call with them, and they were like, we're looking for solutions right now exactly for this, and we have not seen anyone do it the way you're doing it. And within 1 demo meeting, they signed on. Right. So there, I'm like, okay, I never got that kind of response with the first version of our product, which was just a data chatbot. We're like ChatGPT style. This whole concept of AI agents that can autonomously mine your data and tell you all the important information for you without operating in the background, without you having to proactively do anything, it really resonated with people. And I think that's where we're like, all right, I think we got something.
Love that. What comes next?
Yeah, I think for us, it's, we product, I think where we've been focused on for the last few months is really nailing the product, right? I think we were struggling also with our product vision, right? When we were just a data chatbot, it was like, what's next? And product-wise, we were struggling with that. Now we're not. Like, with our new AI agents, we have a very clear vision about what we can build. Our customers have told us what they want to see as we roll these out and scale it. So I think product-wise, I don't want to say we've cracked it, but I think we're in a much better spot. So I think for us, it's now about finding a semi, not completely scalable, but semi-scalable outbound and inbound go-to-market motion. That is really where I'm putting my efforts on. So this way we can really start just acquiring customers at a much more rapid speed and scale. Right, because I think that's kind of the marker where we need to be at going forward for us to make this, like, a much larger business and meet the expectations and goals that we have internally. So that's really what we're going to be putting our efforts on, or at least I'm going to be putting my primary efforts on.
I love it. If people are listening and they want to find out more about Anova, one, tell us a little bit, because we kind of jumped around quite a bit. Tell us a little bit about Anova, and then where can they find more if they're interested in checking it out?
Yeah, so basically Anova is essentially a data analytics platform for companies that are using databases and cloud data warehouses like Snowflake, BigQuery, Redshift, MySQL. Basically what we do is we have AI agents that can connect to your database in a secure way, and with the right business context and data context that our users can control, the AI can autonomously mine your data and surface up all the key intelligence you need behind the scenes via a self-prompting engine. So that's basically one of the things unique is that with AI, prompting is one of the biggest barriers, right? People don't know how to prompt, or it's just, again, it's a reactive mechanism. So what we've developed are self-prompting AI agents that once it has the right context, they'll prompt themselves and iterate on your data, kind of like how ChatGPT's deep research tool works, where it's thinking and reasoning in real time, but it's doing it on your proprietary data set. That's what Anova is, and people can find more info on our website, which is anova.ai. ANOVA. Yeah, that's right. I spelled that right. And yeah, they can also reach out to me directly if they're interested in learning more.
Love it. Deep research for your own data. Well said, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining. I'll throw a link to your LinkedIn in the show notes and a link to your website in the show notes if anybody wants to check it out. Feel free to reach out. So thank you again for coming on the show.
Right. Thanks a lot, Colin. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
You got it. Thanks for being here. And thanks to everybody for listening. We'll catch y'all next time.